It was a bright but chilly morning in the heart of Silicon Valley. The park near Tesla's headquarters buzzed with activity. Dog walkers, joggers, and the hum of electric scooters zipping along the paved paths. Among the everyday commotion, a man sat alone on a wooden bench, hunched over an old, battered electric scooter. His fingers, calloused and grimy, moved with precision as he tinkered with its internal wiring. His clothes were tattered, his face lined with the marks of hardship. But his eyes gleamed with an intensity that suggested there was more to him than met the eye. Elon Musk, enjoying a rare moment of quiet, strolled through the park with his hands in his pockets. His mind, always brimming with ideas, briefly stilled as he soaked in the serenity around him. Just as he passed the bench, he stopped abruptly. Something about the man with the scooter caught his attention. The way he worked, quick, focused and deliberate, was almost mesmerizing. Most people wouldn't spare a second glance at a homeless man tinkering with scrap, but Elon saw something intriguing. But before we dive into the story, don't forget to subscribe and share where you're watching from in the comments section. Your support will help us bring more meaningful stories. Elon said, "Excuse me," stepping closer. "What are you working on there?" The man glanced up, his face guarded. "Just fixing this thing," he muttered, barely looking at Elon. Elon squatted to get a better look at the scooter. It was an old model, the kind most people would throw away. Yet, the man had rigged it with a makeshift power source and was rewiring its circuits with surprising skill. Elon couldn't help but admire the ingenuity. "Looks like you know your way around electronics," Elon said, trying to keep his tone casual. The man hesitated before responding. "Yeah, I used to," he said cryptically, his voice tinged with both pride and bitterness. "What do you mean, used to?" Elon pressed, genuinely curious. The man sighed and put down the screwdriver he had been holding. "Let's just say life had other plans for me," he said, his voice heavy with unspoken stories. Elon, unfazed, smiled. "I'm Elon, by the way." The man finally looked up, his eyes narrowing as recognition dawned. "Elon Musk? What are you doing here?" "Taking a walk. I'd ask you the same question, but it seems like you're busy solving problems," Elon said, gesturing to the scooter. The man chuckled dryly. "Name's James, and yeah, I've got a habit of fixing things. It's what I used to do before. Everything fell apart." Intrigued, Elon sat on the bench beside James. "Mind if I watch? I'm curious how you're getting this thing to work." James shrugged, unsure of why this billionaire would care, but he continued working. As he explained what he was doing, breaking down complicated engineering concepts in simple, brilliant terms, Elon realized this wasn't just a man down on his luck. James was a problem solver, a thinker, someone with an extraordinary mind buried under layers of hardship. For the next hour, they talked. James was guarded at first, but gradually opened up, explaining how he had scavenged parts from dumpsters and junkyards to build what he needed. Elon listened intently, fascinated not just by James's technical skill, but by his resilience and resourcefulness. As the conversation wound down, Elon stood up, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You know, James, I think there's more to your story than you're letting on. How about we continue this conversation over lunch? My treat." James hesitated, wary of the offer. "Why would someone like you care about someone like me?" Elon smiled. "Because brilliance doesn't care where it comes from, and I think you've got a lot of it." Reluctantly, James agreed. Little did he know, this chance encounter was about to change his life forever. Sitting across from Elon Musk in a cozy diner, James seemed out of place. The waitress, used to serving Silicon Valley elites, raised an eyebrow at his worn-out clothes, but said nothing as she poured coffee into his chipped mug. James shifted uncomfortably, his shoulders tense, as if ready to bolt at any moment. Elon, however, leaned back in his seat, sipping his espresso with an easy smile, as if this was just another casual lunch meeting. "So, James," Elon began, setting his cup down, "you've got the hands of an engineer and the mind of a problem solver. What happened? How did you end up in the park fixing broken scooters?" James let out a humorless laugh and stirred his coffee absent-mindedly. "That's a long story." Elon shrugged. "I've got time." James sighed, staring at the steam rising from his mug as if it held the answers. "I wasn't always like this," he started. "I had a life once, a good one. I graduated top of my class in electrical engineering, got recruited by a startup straight out of college. Back then, it felt like the sky was the limit." His voice grew softer as he continued, lost in memories. "I worked my way up the ranks, designing energy-efficient systems, inventing things that I thought would make the world better. I had a wife, a house, even a dog. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine." Elon nodded, his expression serious. "So what changed?" James hesitated, as if weighing whether to share the darkest parts of his story. Finally, he spoke. "The startup I worked for, my dream job, got bought out by a big corporation. They didn't care about innovation, just profit. They slashed budgets, laid off half the staff, and pushed me to cut corners on projects I believed in. I couldn't do it. I refused." His grip tightened around his mug. "They fired me, blacklisted me in the industry. Suddenly, no one would hire me. My savings ran out faster than I thought. My wife, she tried to stick it out, but the stress was too much. She left, took the dog, and that was that." James paused, his voice thick with emotion. "I lost everything. The house, my reputation, my confidence. Ended up on the streets, scavenging parts just to keep my mind busy. I guess I didn't want to forget what it felt like to build something, even if it was just junk." Elon leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "And all this time, no one gave you a second chance?" James shook his head. "People see a guy like me and assume the worst, that I'm lazy, that I don't want to work. But the truth is, it's hard to climb back up once you've fallen. You get stuck in this cycle, and no one wants to take a risk on you." For a moment, there was silence between them, broken only by the clink of silverware from nearby tables. Elon tapped his fingers thoughtfully against the table. "You know, James, what you've been through, it doesn't define you. Your work, your mind, that's who you are. And I can tell you're not done yet." James looked up, his guarded expression softening slightly. "Maybe. But people like me don't get chances handed to them." Elon smiled, a spark of determination in his eyes. "Good thing I'm not like most people." James tilted his head, confused but intrigued. What exactly did this billionaire have in mind? He couldn't shake the feeling that, for the first time in years, his life was about to take an unexpected turn. A few days later, James found himself standing in an unfamiliar warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The space was massive, filled with rows of state-of-the-art machinery and half-finished prototypes of robots, drones, and futuristic gadgets. The air buzzed with energy, as if the room itself was alive with ideas waiting to be born. Elon stood nearby, casually scrolling through his phone, but James could sense the undercurrent of expectation in his posture. "This," Elon said, gesturing to the warehouse, "is one of my smaller R&D labs. I've got a little challenge for you, James." James raised an eyebrow. "A challenge?" Elon nodded, his grin almost mischievous. "I believe in second chances, but I also believe in testing people's limits. There's a piece of equipment over there that's been giving my team headaches for weeks." He pointed to a sleek, high-tech drone sitting on a workbench. Its design was impressive, but its insides were a tangled mess of circuits and wires. It's supposed to be an autonomous delivery drone, but the guidance system is faulty. Think you can fix it? James hesitated. His instincts told him to walk away, to avoid the potential embarrassment of failure. But something in Elon's expression, a mix of curiosity and quiet confidence, gave him pause. This was a test, yes, but it wasn't just about the drone. It was about proving to himself that he still had the skills he thought he'd lost. Taking a deep breath, James approached the drone and lifted it onto the bench. He studied it carefully, his fingers tracing the intricate wiring. "You got a toolkit around here?" he asked. Elon gestured to a nearby cabinet, and James grabbed a set of precision tools. For the next few hours, he was lost in the work. He dismantled the drone piece by piece, identifying the flaws in its design. The faulty sensor that caused navigation errors, the loose wiring that disrupted power flow. Slowly but surely, he began to rebuild it, his movements growing more confident with each adjustment. As the sun dipped below the horizon, James finally stepped back from the bench, wiping sweat from his brow. The drone sat before him, its sleek frame gleaming under the fluorescent lights. He powered it on, holding his breath as it hummed to life. With a soft whir, it lifted off the bench and hovered in midair, its movements smooth and precise. Elon, who had been watching from a distance, clapped his hands together in satisfaction. "Not bad, James. Not bad at all." James let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. For the first time in years, he felt a spark of pride. "Guess I've still got it," he said, a small smile tugging at his lips. Elon nodded, his eyes gleaming with something that looked suspiciously like excitement. "This is just the beginning, James. Let's see what else you can do." After successfully repairing the drone, James became a regular visitor to Elon's warehouse. At first, he was cautious, unsure of how far this opportunity would go. But with each passing day, Elon handed him more complex challenges, problems his own teams had struggled with for weeks. James tackled them with a mix of ingenuity and passion, often surprising even himself with the solutions he devised. It was during one of these days, as James worked late into the evening, that Elon approached him with an unexpected request. "James, let's grab a coffee," he said, leaning casually against a table. James glanced up from his project, surprised. "Now?" "Now," Elon confirmed, already walking toward the door. The two of them ended up at a quiet, upscale cafe tucked away in a corner of the city. It was the kind of place James never would have stepped into a few weeks ago. As they sat down with their drinks, Elon leaned back in his chair, studying James with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "You know, James," Elon began, "I've met a lot of brilliant minds in my time, people with degrees from Ivy League schools, years of experience at top tech companies, but you're different." James frowned, unsure of how to respond. "Different how?" Elon leaned forward, his voice dropping slightly. "Your designs, your methods, they're raw, unconventional, but they work. It's like you see the world differently. Where did that come from?" James hesitated, unsure if he should open up. But there was something in Elon's tone, genuine curiosity, not judgment, that encouraged him to speak. "I didn't have a formal education," he admitted. "Everything I know, I learned by taking things apart and figuring out how they worked. When I was a kid, I'd spend hours tinkering with old radios, broken TVs, anything I could get my hands on. It wasn't about making money or impressing anyone, I just wanted to understand." Elon nodded, a faint smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "That explains a lot." James took a sip of his coffee, gathering his thoughts. "But life has a way of throwing curveballs. I lost everything. My job, my home, my family. I ended up on the streets, not because I wasn't capable, but because I didn't know how to fight back when things went wrong." Elon's expression softened. For a moment, he was silent, as if weighing his words carefully. "James," he said finally, "do you know why I stopped to talk to you that day?" James shook his head. "Honestly, no. I still don't get it." Elon leaned back, his gaze thoughtful. "I've always believed in looking beyond appearances. People write off others too quickly, especially someone like you, someone who doesn't fit into their idea of success. But I saw the way you carried yourself, the way you spoke. You weren't just asking for a handout, you were still fighting, even if you didn't realize it." James was taken aback. He had never thought of himself that way. Elon continued, his voice firm. "You've got something rare, James. A mind that doesn't just solve problems, but creates opportunities. I'm going to help you, but only if you're willing to believe in yourself as much as I believe in you." The words hit James harder than he expected. For years, he had carried the weight of failure, convinced that his potential was nothing more than a distant memory. But here was one of the most influential people in the world telling him otherwise. James met Elon's gaze, a flicker of determination igniting within him. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's see where this goes." Elon smiled, raising his coffee cup in a mock toast to second chances. In that moment, James realized this wasn't just about fixing machines or passing tests. It was about reclaiming his place in the world, and this time he wasn't going to let it slip away. James woke up to the faint hum of morning activity in the sleek studio apartment Elon had arranged for him. It wasn't lavish, but it was clean, modern, and worlds apart from the park bench he had called home just a few weeks prior. The sunlight streaming through the glass windows illuminated the carefully placed tools and components Elon had gifted him, a small token to reignite his passion for engineering. It was the first day of his new job, and the nerves hit him harder than he expected. This wasn't just any opportunity, it was a chance to start over, to prove himself not only to Elon, but also to the team of brilliant minds he was about to join. After years of being overlooked, doubted, and discarded, James had stepped into a realm where innovation thrived. Arriving at Tesla's innovation lab, James was greeted by a young woman with an iPad in hand. "Mr. Musk asked me to show you around," she said, smiling warmly. "You'll be working with the advanced robotics team on Project Horizon." James tried to mask his surprise. Project Horizon was rumored to be one of Tesla's most ambitious undertakings, an initiative that sought to develop a fully autonomous rescue robot capable of navigating disaster zones. Elon hadn't mentioned that during their conversations, but James could feel the magnitude of the opportunity dawning on him. The team welcomed him cautiously but respectfully, their initial skepticism fading as they saw James dive into the work. He didn't waste a second proving his worth. Whether it was troubleshooting a complicated power circuit or brainstorming algorithms for the robot's adaptive sensors, James showcased not only his technical skills, but also his natural leadership abilities. Elon checked in occasionally, observing from the sidelines. "I knew you'd fit in," he said during one visit, "but seeing it in action, it's even better than I hoped." James's first breakthrough came quicker than anyone expected. While reviewing a problematic design in the robot's mobility system, James suggested a radical approach, using gyroscopic balance mechanisms inspired by motorcycle technology. The team was skeptical at first, but when James built a prototype and demonstrated its efficiency, the room erupted in applause. For the first time in years, James felt alive. The buzz of collaboration, the challenge of problem-solving, and the knowledge that his ideas could save lives reignited a fire he thought had long been extinguished. That night, as he stood on the balcony of his apartment, staring out at the glowing city, James let himself feel something he hadn't dared in years: hope. The future wasn't just a distant dream anymore. It was here, within his grasp, and he wasn't going to let it slip away again. Weeks passed, and James continued to make strides at Tesla. The robotic prototype he helped design was progressing rapidly, and his contributions were becoming indispensable. But one morning, Elon invited James into his office for a private conversation. "James," Elon began, his voice calm but deliberate, "I've been following your work closely. Your perspective on engineering is unlike anything I've seen before. There's a vision you have that I think could change everything we're doing here at Tesla. I want you to lead a new project, one that combines the best of what you've learned from robotics, AI, and your past experience." James blinked, trying to process Elon's words. "Lead a project? But I'm just a new guy here. I don't have the credentials." "You don't need the credentials," Elon interrupted, smiling. "You've already shown me what you can do. I'm offering you an opportunity to innovate something that's never been done before, and I believe you're the right person for the job." The project Elon proposed was unlike any James had imagined. It wasn't just a robot, it was a new form of human-computer interaction, something that could bridge the gap between machines and people in profound ways. It was a personal assistant AI embedded within wearable technology, something that could help people with disabilities, the elderly, and even first responders in high-stress environments. James's mind raced as he visualized the possibilities. The AI would learn and adapt to its users' needs in real time, from assisting with simple tasks to providing real-time translations and offering emotional support during traumatic experiences. But that wasn't all. Elon's idea was revolutionary. He wanted this AI to integrate directly with the human brain, not just communicate through screens or voice commands. "We need to make sure it's intuitive," Elon explained. "Something that becomes an extension of the person using it. Not just a tool, but a partner. It's a project that could reshape how we live, how we work, and how we connect with each other." James hesitated. The magnitude of the idea was overwhelming, but at the same time, the spark of excitement he had felt when first working on Tesla's robots flared up again. This was the next frontier of technology, and he was being handed the reins to guide it. Elon continued, "I believe this is the future. With your ingenuity and Tesla's resources, I'm confident we can make this happen. What do you say?" James's heart raced. He had never imagined himself in this position, not in a million years. From sleeping in parks to leading one of the most groundbreaking innovations in human history, the journey had been nothing short of surreal. But as he looked at Elon, he realized there was no turning back. "I say, let's do it," James replied, his voice filled with determination. And just like that, James became the leader of what would soon be known as Project MindLink, a transformative piece of technology that would merge artificial intelligence with human consciousness, creating the world's first fully integrated, wearable AI. As the days turned into weeks, the team dove into research, brainstorming, and development. James's leadership, combined with his unique insight into human-machine interaction, set the stage for what would become the most innovative breakthrough Tesla had ever seen. This wasn't just about building a product, it was about changing the very fabric of human experience. But with each step forward, the weight of the challenge grew heavier. James knew that the road ahead would be filled with obstacles, ethical debates, technological hurdles, and countless unknowns. But he was ready. With the support of Elon and the Tesla team, James was determined to push the limits of possibility. In the quiet moments before his team would test the first prototype, James allowed himself to reflect on how far he had come. From the streets of the city to the cutting edge of technological innovation, he had found his true calling. And this was just the beginning. After months of intense development, countless prototypes, and near-constant troubleshooting, the first working model of the AI wearable, now named MindLink, was ready for its initial test. The team gathered in Tesla's most advanced lab, where the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. James stood at the center, surrounded by engineers, developers, and, of course, Elon Musk himself. The world was about to witness something unprecedented, and the pressure was palpable. James approached the prototype, a sleek, futuristic device designed to be worn on the head, resembling a lightweight, high-tech headband. It wasn't just about providing information or control. It was designed to be a seamless extension of the human mind, capable of reading neural signals and responding in real time to thoughts and emotions. "I can't believe we're finally here," Elon said, his voice low but filled with excitement. "This is it. James, you ready?" James took a deep breath, his mind racing. He had envisioned this moment countless times, but now that it was finally here, the reality felt overwhelming. Still, he remained focused. "Let's do it." The first volunteer to try MindLink was Clara, a woman in her late 30s who had struggled with a speech impairment her entire life. Her inability to communicate as freely as others had often left her feeling isolated and frustrated. Clara had been chosen because MindLink was designed with the hope that it could help people like her, those with speech difficulties or mobility impairments. James gently adjusted the device on Clara's head, ensuring the fit was secure. "All right," he said, making eye contact with her. "We're going to start slow. Just think about what you want to say, and the system will do the rest." Clara nodded, a mix of excitement and nervousness in her eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the room went silent as Clara's eyes widened. She raised her hand to her mouth, almost in disbelief. She began speaking. Her words were clear, articulate, something she had never been able to do without assistance. MindLink had translated her thoughts into speech, flawlessly. A collective gasp filled the room. Everyone, from Elon to the engineers, was stunned. It wasn't just a technological achievement, it was a human breakthrough. "Clara, you did it," James said, his voice trembling with emotion. Tears welled in Clara's eyes as she spoke her first full sentence. "I can finally talk." The moment felt timeless. It was a victory not just for technology, but for humanity. MindLink had unlocked a new world of possibilities for people who had long been limited by physical or cognitive barriers. As the test progressed, James's heart soared with each success. The device wasn't just working, it was changing lives. Clara was soon joined by other volunteers, each of them experiencing the groundbreaking power of MindLink. Some were able to communicate for the first time in years, while others could perform simple actions that had once been impossible. As the testing concluded, Elon approached James with a look of pride in his eyes. "You did it, James. You've created something that will change the world." James looked around at the team, at the volunteers, and at the people who had supported him throughout this incredible journey. It was hard to believe how far he had come, from the streets to this moment of triumph. His vision had not only been realized, but had exceeded even his wildest expectations. "This is just the beginning," James replied, his voice steady but filled with an undeniable sense of accomplishment. He had proven that genius didn't need credentials, wealth, or status. It just needed vision and the courage to bring it to life. And in that moment, James knew that MindLink would be the catalyst for a new era of human potential. A testament to the power of innovation and a legacy that would inspire generations to come. Months later, James stood at the edge of a bustling Tesla event, surrounded by reporters, engineers, and countless curious eyes. Today, MindLink was being unveiled to the world. The device that had once been a dream, a far-fetched idea he shared with only a handful of people, was now on the verge of changing countless lives. As James spoke on stage, he reflected on his journey. From living on the streets to leading a groundbreaking project, he had come full circle. The journey had been long and filled with challenges, but it had also been about believing in himself, even when the world didn't. He remembered the encounter with Elon, the moment that had sparked this transformation, and couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at how far he had come. Elon stood beside him, watching the crowd with a look of pride. "This is a game changer," he said quietly, "and it's all thanks to James." James glanced at the audience, their faces filled with excitement and wonder. He knew that MindLink was just the beginning, a small part of a bigger story about the future of technology and human connection. "This is more than just a device," James said, his voice steady. "It's a chance to rewrite the rules of possibility, to give those who have been left behind the opportunity to thrive. The world is changing, and together we're making it a better place." As the crowd erupted in applause, James felt a familiar spark, the same one that had guided him from his lowest moments to this moment of triumph. He knew his journey wasn't over, but he had a question for everyone. What will you do when you're given the chance to change the world? It wasn't only a question, it was a reminder that anyone, no matter where they started, had the potential to create something extraordinary.